Hey guys, welcome back. This is episode 7 now of this Iron Sharpens Iron series, and have a really special guest today, Nicole Ferrier. And what this series is all about is bringing together the physique and strength community, giving the athletes, giving the coaches, giving the educators a voice back. I think there's a lot of misinformation being spread today. I think that people need to hear what really goes into things like prep, starting your own coaching business, going back to school for education, all this stuff that's really important. And so I'm bringing people on to here that I feel, first of all, know what they're talking about, which is very important. And number two, that I respect the way that they go about handling their social media, handling their competition, prep, handling the way they coach clients, stuff like that. So I wanted to bring you on here because for those of you guys that don't know Nicole, that's kind of hard to say actually. She is a bikini competitor. You have been competing for a few years now, right?
Yes, I started competing back in 2015. I did my first competition, and I was 19 during my first prep and competed at 20. So like I had just turned 20 when I did my first show.
So what got you into it? And to begin with,
So
you were a gymnast before, right?
I was used to being in the gym, like a gymnastic style gym, for at least 20 hours a week. And after gymnastics, with that sport, when you get older, a lot of facilities don't have the insurance to work with the athletes because it's just a high risk sport.
Okay.
So a lot of facilities won't coach anyone over, like the age of 20. I was allowed to still train a little bit, but I wasn't allowed to be competitive. And it was really hard for me because I like to compete and I like to have a goal to strive for. It almost felt like I was doing all these routines for what? Just to be perfect, wasn't really accomplishing anything.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know that about gymnastics.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, I don't know much about gymnastics, and I thought that pretty much once you got out of high school, I never even knew that you could still go compete and practice with a team or a facility like that. I thought it was either college or you stopped doing it. So
yeah, so you can compete for the AAU. You can do an adult league. I was fortunate enough to work at a gymnastics facility, so I could get some extra training in. We had a good relationship together. She kind of saw me grow up.
yeah.
And she's like, hey, I know that you still want to do this. So if you want to flip around for fun, I won't charge you anything just because you're an employee. So I was able to, train and kind of get a little bit of added, I guess, energy out. But it's so hard when you love a sport so much like that, especially when you dedicate basically your whole life to it, because you can't do other sports of gymnastics. It's you do gymnastics and you don't do anything else because your practices again are 4 hours a day on top of school, so you don't really have a life. So it was really hard for me to let go of gymnastics, and then plus with coaching, that's all I thought about.
So at what age did you start picking up gymnastics?
I was late, so I was 11, but I advanced very quickly in the sport. I got to a optional level, which is the higher level of gymnastics within my first 3 years of doing the sport, which was considered very quick.
Yeah.
Especially at that age, because for females, you're going through puberty, so your body's changing very rapidly. It's hard for people to pick up that sport when you are growing an inch every year and you are developing as a female. It can kind of throw off your biomechanics. But I was able to do really well.
It strikes me as pretty kind of an interesting kind of a correlation between gymnastics and competing, because even though gymnastics is a team sport, it's a very individual thing as well. And do you think that's probably what made you drew you into competing, is that it's all on you, right? Like you are so used to already being self-driven, being out there on your own, competing on your own, things like that. Is that what kind of drew you to physique sports after that?
Yeah, I learned to take responsibility. And responsibility if I fell, responsibility if I did something wrong, responsibility if I didn't show up for practice. Like that sport is so hard. Like we were used to, in a way, kind of being punished with conditioning and training if we were even like 15 minutes late to practice. Like you got in trouble. So I was used to extreme discipline.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think if I remember right, I think I was maybe like 6 or 7. I tried gymnastics for like a few months. It was one of those where you like tried a few sports here and there to see what you liked. And I couldn't do it. I was like short and fat at the time though. So like it just wasn't for me. But okay, so that's really interesting. For those of you guys that don't know, Nicole has a great podcast, Beyond the Bikini, right? That's the name of it. That we actually did an episode a few weeks ago about like body image, eating disorders, things like that. I highly recommend you guys go check it out. I'm going to link everything below. So we're not going to like touch too much into that right now because I want people to drive and go listen to that podcast. That was an awesome conversation. Definitely one I think should get shared a lot. And we'll dig deep into that again at some point. But what, when you first started competing, when you first made that kind of jump from gymnastics to competition for bikini competition, what were some things that you probably didn't know going into it? Like when you got into it, what were some of the shockers that were like, holy shit, I didn't know that this was going to happen?
I think, well, one thing that was really exciting for me when I first started, and this was when right before like bikini really boomed, which I would say was like 2017. I was young. I was like, wow, I'm a baby. I was like, I'm the youngest person here. And I felt great about it because with gymnastics, I was always old. So with this sport, I was like, I literally can do this for the rest of my life. And the older I get, the better it's going to get, versus gymnastics was the complete opposite. The older you get, the worse you're going to get, you know? So I was super excited with that. Now going into like mistakes, I guess, my first prep was a mess. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really know that there were coaches out there.
Did you have a coach? But
yeah, I just kind of would copy what other girls were doing. I think I was eating around like 1,500 calories, and with me and my body, like now, like I know that that's not aggressive enough to get me to stage conditioning. My training wasn't programmed properly. I just was kind of a mess. My tan was a mess. My hair and makeup was a mess. My suit wasn't super glammed out like it should have been. It was still like a nice suit, but it just wasn't to the caliber it is now. So then when I was backstage, I'll never forget like seeing some girls that were in true conditioning, and I thought to my head, I'm like, how is that possible? Like I've never seen a person look that lean before, and my brain was just like exploded. I just didn't understand how a female could have like capped shoulders and like basically capped glutes and yeah. So that really blew my mind. But I remember competing, I took like 7th place and I had fun. So that's really all I cared about. I also realized it's really expensive. So I started to work a little bit more because I had always worked a lot in college. So I worked like 2 part-time jobs, and I had just like a handful of clients through online, just like college girls that saw me training at the gym, because at the time I really was like the only girl lifting. So I'd always have girls come up to me saying like, well, what are you doing? Like, how are you lifting? How are you doing this? And I would charge them like $35 a month to give them a little bit of advice.
No, that's perfect. That actually transitions well into one of the main things that I wanted to bring you on here for, is because I see what you're doing with your coaching and your business model and stuff like that. And I think it's really important for people to hear how you can take this passion that you love and actually build it into a career. You know, obviously I'm in the same boat as you with that, but I really like your strategy, what seems like your strategy, and kind of the content you produce. So walk us through a little bit about how Nicole was when she started coaching, and how you transitioned and how you grew and developed into, you know, the coach you are right now.
Yeah. Well, number one, I will say this is the long game. I see a lot of people who want to get into coaching, and not to knock on like masterminds, but it's going to take time. And plus, you have to be really passionate about it, and you can't fake passion. I think everyone that I've worked with when I first started, they saw how much I loved what I was doing. I mean, I'm still in contact with these women now, and we've just become good friends. And like my first ever client even just texted me the other day and was like, thank you for the at-home workouts. Like, it's just about creating relationships with people. And when I first started, I would say my downfalls were feeling like I couldn't make it a full-time job. I felt like I was going to school to get a traditional style job. I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science. My minor's in nutrition and business management. I thought I'd go into more so like sports management. And I did have a full-time job at a gymnastics facility as a recreational director. So I was in charge of all like the rec programming and even their marketing on Instagram. And yeah, I feel like what really helped me was starting to really focus in on people who were doing it for their full-time job, and kind of, I don't want to say copying, but looking at the sort of content that they were producing. So I really shifted my Instagram from making it about me in 2015 to making it about others and helping others since 2016. I don't even know how many posts I have on my Instagram, but I've been posting like every single day since 2016.
Yeah, that's a huge key right there, is consistency. And I have not since 2016, but probably since about 2017, late 2017. Same thing. I got 3,000 plus posts. Like some days, I remember at the beginning, I was making like 2 or 3 posts a day for a while, not really understanding the Instagram game and everything. But how have you seen, since you started in 2016, how have you seen the growth of coaching through Instagram change? Like,
Yeah. Well, I'll say that just because someone has a lot of followers doesn't mean they have a lot of clients. So that's something that I've learned. I've seen a lot of people with 100K plus followers, and I know that they're struggling in their business. So if you don't have a huge following, let's say you even have 1,000 people, if you had a traditional gym and you had 1,000 people walk into your gym, that's plenty of customers.
Yep.
So it's not just about followers. I've learned that everybody has an expertise too. I always hear that the coaching industry is too saturated. No, okay. There's not every coach is made for every client. And I know for me, I've only hired male coaches, and it sounds weird, but like I would only really want a male coach. I don't necessarily want a female coach. Whereas I know a lot of females.
Personality, or
Yeah.
what is it so much? Just your personality? You like that, like
I think
authoritative type coach, or?
I think that I find men just kind of get to the point, and I don't really need the empathy, if that makes sense.
No.
Not to say that men aren't empathetic, but I feel like sometimes women need more of an emotional touch with coaching, which I feel like that's what I offer, which is funny because that's not what I need.
Yeah, that is kind of ironic, but I know what you're talking about as far as the male, the directness and stuff, because that's how I coach. Not rude, not condescending. I'm just like, I'm here to tell you the points, because it's going to help you get to where you want to get to. And I've had quite a few of my female clients like email me back like after 10 or 12 weeks into it. I was like, I really appreciate that directness and everything, because that's
some love it, but I know other clients, like some women that I work with, if I were to be direct with them, it would make them crumble,
and
they
that's
would shut
the
down.
most important thing is I don't know if you did it during college. I did in both my undergrad and during my master's program. We took psychology courses, and that is a huge part of coaching now. It's not just the numbers, right? You have to know what makes your client tick and what doesn't, how you can kind of push them and nudge them a little bit more and everything. So how has your approach changed in the 4 years or so that you have been coaching? Have you always been the Nicole now, or did you kind of develop that along the way?
So I will say that I've changed a lot. I'm changing at a very rapid pace, and I don't think change is bad. Even who I am 2 years ago is completely different to who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I've changed, but I've changed for the better. And I give so much free content away. So that's the biggest thing that's changed, is so many platforms of content, like podcasts, Instagram, doing graphics through Instagram, because you can save those, having a Facebook community where I'm doing lives in. I do lives on Instagram. Like, I do so much for free to share with others and just help them. I feel like before I was too shy to like go out and just speak up, and I wouldn't even, if they had story back in 2015, I would not be on it because I'd be scared. But now you see me on my story all day, every day, and I don't even care if I have makeup on or makeup off. Like, I'm going to show my face, where before I wouldn't.
Yeah, same way. Like, I'm not good enough at editing and doing all that stuff. Like, when I make my videos, when I do all that stuff, like, it's raw. It's who I am. I think it's really important that every coach understands who they are, what niche they have. You said before, like, you have this niche and you like coaches with certain niches and stuff. And there is room for a lot of different coaches in this industry. I agree with you. I don't think it's a saturated industry. I think there's a lot of coaches, but everybody has a different approach. Everybody has a different style.
Yeah.
There are so many people in this world that need coaches, and we need to be able to connect with, the one that fits us, right? I've had people that have inquired to me, and we've talked and realized, I'm probably not the right fit for you. I actually literally just had an inquiry about somebody struggling with some really bad GI issues. They've been seeing doctors and they need like a nutritionist. And, I'm not a registered dietitian. That's not my wheelhouse. So I sent them to our registered dietitian on Team BioLane, Keith, and hopefully they're going to work out. But I think that it's really important, and you gain a lot of trust with people through social media and all that when you are willing to be real, when you don't know something, and be able to connect them with people that they might be able to work with. Because I think everything comes back to you.
Yeah.
You are like that. You seem like you are like that with your coaching. You're very, with your social media, I should say, I guess, you are very natural. You are very honest. And I think people respect that about you. And I think it's definitely showing.
Yeah. And I appreciate that so much. Before, I was just really scared to, again, like, share my voice. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But realize that your opinions matter. Like, there is no right and wrong way to go about things. Like, you'll hear me express my opinion all the time. I'm sure that there's people out there that don't like me, but that's okay. I realize that I'm not meant to be liked by everyone, and I'm not trying to be liked by everyone. Yeah. And I think once you let go of that, you just feel really liberated.
You think that would probably be your number one piece of advice for anybody trying to get into the coaching game now?
Oh, for sure. And even including like your parents. Like, if your parents are telling you not to do this, like, who cares? Like, yes, you are, your blood, but you have to follow your heart, because the worst thing, I think, is just wondering what if, or feeling like you're going to start at a certain time and then it hits that time and you aren't happy because you kind of let yourself down. And I see people do this with so many things in their life, where they think they need to be married or have kids at a certain time. And it's like, just stop timing everything. Like, just, if you want something, take action now. Because if I were to listen to my parents, like, honestly, like, with everything going on right now, I probably wouldn't even have a job right now. So I'm happy I did listen to myself, because I am able to support myself and do what I love every day. I don't feel like I'm working. I'm happy. I'm not depressed anymore working for someone else. And I wouldn't have been here if, again, I would have listened to other people.
Yeah, that's so important. I'm 35, and I thought I would be doing this 12, 13 years ago. Life kind of went in a different direction, joined the Army. I kept pushing, I was one of those people where I was like, I'm going to be married by this time. I'm going to have kids by this time.
Have all your ducks in a row.
Yeah, I'm a very type A personality. I always have been, even before the military. I like structure. And I had to learn that the more I was forcing it, the less it was happening. And, went through some shit there for a little bit in my mid to, late 20s, early 30s. And then when I stopped forcing stuff is when things started happening. And I totally agree with that point of view. So let's transition a little bit out of the coaching and everything. And I want to talk a little bit about being a competitor, being a bikini competitor. What do you see the differences between when you started in 2015, 16? 2016?
2015.
15. What do you notice different about the division now? There's a lot that has changed. And I think there's a lot of people that are just now getting into the, to the competing realm of it and seeing bikini. And bikini's not now what it was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So what are your takes on that? And do you like the route that it's going, or kind of expand upon what you're thinking?
Well, I first want to say, like, the definition of bikini when it first started was like Sports Illustrated cover fit girl. But now what bikini is not attainable. It's not, nobody looks like that naturally. It requires so much effort, so much precision, and the physique is amazing in bikini. I think that it is super impressive. But with my own competing career, I mean, I was, 2 points away from a pro card, and not 2 points, I'm sorry, four places away from a pro card at Junior Nationals in 2018. I think if I were to compete with that same conditioning in 2019, they would say you're way too small,
Yeah.
2016, 2017, I always took top 2, always. And this past 2019, I had a show I didn't even place at. And that was a big ego check for me, because I had always been one of the best. I was like, and I'm from Ohio, so like there's not that many shows in Ohio, and I was known to be that really good competitor. And It was a really hard like ego kick for me, seeing that this division is changing, even down to the posing, hair, makeup, like everything was changing. And I felt like between 2017 to 2019, it like completely, the whole division has completely changed. And to say that I don't like it would be a lie. Like, I do like the evolution going on, but I will say it's very, very hard. It's challenging. And as someone who has like super long muscle bodies, and I don't gain muscle easy, nobody gains muscle easy, but in particular, I feel like with how my body is shaped, for me to look that bubbly and full and muscular, it's going to take a lot of time. And that's what has led me to taking a little over a year off for this upcoming year.
That was what I was going to ask. I know that you're not competing this year and everything. Oh, I don't know if he's competing this year, to be honest. Unfortunately, we'll see how that works out. But what are the goals from this point on? What are some things from your last show that you got feedback on that they're like, Nicole, this is what you need to work on. This is, all this stuff. And what has been your game plan going into this off season?
So I'll be honest, I was a chronic competitor. Like, I just would compete. I've done 18 NPC shows.
Since 2000.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Your body's doing this break then.
I was just a trophy collector. I just would go to all the regional shows and collect trophies. I would go to national shows, and I would get like usually like a second call out. Junior USA, I got 7th, not bad. I've got top 10 a handful of times. Arnold class, I got top 10. I was good, but I wasn't great. And so I realized that in 2019, my stubbornness couldn't win because my body gave up, which was, again, another really hard ego thing for me, because I thought that you can just work through this. Like, you're just making excuses. And it got to a point where my NEAT was super high, my cardio was super high, my calories were super low, refeeds were even super low, and my body just wasn't happy. I was getting sick in summer. I had the flu in July. So I was getting all this feedback from my body, and then I noticed that my muscularness, like the fullness to my physique, was diminishing. And we both know that with chronic dieting and over exercising, it can lead to muscular atrophy. And I'm like, I don't want to be at a point where I dwindle away and lose all my muscle mass that I worked for.
Right.
So I decided to jump into my reverse, and It was hard because my body put on weight pretty quickly despite my calories being low. And again, like I know a lot of women and even men out there, like they might have experienced this where they're hitting their reverse, but their body is putting on weight rapidly. I want to let you know, like, you're not a failure. Okay. Like
Right.
everybody's body's going to respond differently. And it was very interesting to me to see how I was gaining weight quickly at like 1,600 calories. And still, hitting like 15,000 steps a day, still training hard. It's like mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
But I had to kind of just let my body gain weight. And even with where I'm at now, like I'm definitely outside of my comfort zone or that 10 pounds above stage weight. And that's okay because I know that what's beneficial with fat tissue is you can have like a healing mechanism with that. As a female, you need that to level out your estrogen, and get your cycle back and for recovery. So fat tissue isn't necessarily a bad thing. But again, I think sometimes like this season of my life, I'm learning that it's okay to be uncomfortable and to not always be in control, and to understand because I'm still to this day like very confused, but I also understand that with what I did in 2019, I really pushed myself so hard that this is honestly years of chronic dieting and trying to do some healing now.
Right. I think it's a good lesson that you're probably going through because you can help relate that to your clients a lot more. Like, listen, this is what I did. I went very extreme and it's not really working out so much right now for me the way that I expected. So you can kind of teach them, maybe we need to slow down a little bit. And that kind of actually leads into a question I wanted to ask because there are so many girls today that are afraid to take a year off. And I have a couple different theories behind that. And I definitely think one of them is because they're using it to obviously further their career, right? They want coaches, they want to do that. That's great. I also have a theory that I think women tend to compete a lot quicker or a lot more often and everything when they're younger because I think they're afraid that when they want to have a baby, when they want to get pregnant, that their competition career is over. So I think they kind of see this window of maybe early 20s to mid to late 20s as like their window, and then it's all over after that, which I don't think it has to be. But what are some of? I mean, I guess you've kind of just went over a little bit, but what is your take on women that are trying to compete and do 5 or 6 shows a year and not taking any time off? What would you tell them? Would you advise them to do that and just get what you can now, or would you advise them to kind of look at it in the longer picture?
Yeah, I would say that first off, 6 months is not an off season. Although it seems long, it's not long, and that's not going to be enough time to put on muscle, like enough tissue. The other thing is you have to consider what your goal is. If your goal is just to compete, to do a show, okay, that's fine. But if you want to compete and be good at the sport and maybe become a pro, like I know for myself, I want to become IFBB bikini pro, then you need to have size and you need to have a muscular base. And unfortunately, a lot of women don't have that naturally. If they didn't do athletics or they weren't in the weight training room like all through their high school years and even college years, so you probably don't have that base. And so that's when you have to ask yourself, like, what do I really want to accomplish? And if you haven't done a show yet and you're trying to decide if you want to compete or not, ask yourself, have I been eating enough calories? So that's going to be more than 1,800 calories like every single day. Am I doing tons of cardio right now? Have I been resistance training, and how long? And if your answer is less than 8 months, I would say no. There's no way.
Great advice. I mean, that's great advice. What would you say to a girl who says that she can't compete in NPC because she is a natural? Do you feel like that there is a big disadvantage for natural athletes competing in NPC?
I will
On the
agree
bikini
with
level.
the NPC at a national level, because whenever I've gone from regional level to national level, it is in the sport, and I have talked about it a handful of times where both men and women are using PEDs, and not to say everyone is, but I would say that the percentage of PED use is going to go up with the level of competition. For example, your high school level athletes probably aren't using PEDs. College level, probably more. Olympic level, probably more, or some manipulation going on.
Right.
So the higher the level, the higher the risk, the more extremes people will take. It's human nature. Now, if you're wanting to have more stage time, I would say maybe a natural federation would be better for you, because you're going to get more time, like with the OCB and natural federations. I also do think that natural federations are more cost friendly and are more family oriented. I've noticed that. So if that's more of your approach, go for it. Not every federation is going to be your style. Now, I know for me, choosing the NPC, I want to compete with the best of the best. And maybe someone is taking drugs. That's fine. Like, I'm at a place where I don't really care what people do to their body. It's more so as long as they aren't hurting other people and they understand the risk that they are taking. My issue with PED use is when coaches are pushing it on their clients and not educating them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, what somebody does or doesn't do with their body, as long as they're not lying about it and they're not hurting somebody. Like, if you're trying to compete in a natural organization and you're enhanced,
That's
I
not cool.
that. We all know the NPC and IFBB are non-tested, so I don't have any issue with that. If a new female competitor is watching this right now, which I hope they are, and they're trying to decide what division fits them best. I actually have a post that I'm going to make probably in a couple days that I've been working on about this, about, do you advise them to choose the division that they want to compete in, that they love, or the division that fits their body best? Because I see it both ways, right? Like, you want it, this is a fun sport, this is what we love to do. You have this vision of, everybody has their favorite competitor, right, that you want to look like. You want to be in this certain division. For females, bikini is that division. But we know there's some females that just don't have the structure for bikini. They might be a little bit better for physique, something like that, you know? How would you go about telling them or advising them what division to choose? And also, what specifically with bikini are judges looking for? Because I think that a lot of people are kind of confused, because the judging criteria has changed a lot over the years. What would you say right now in 2020 is kind of the physique in bikini that judges are looking for? You know, cap delts,
So
glutes, things like that.
for bikini, they want the whole package. So I would say you have to, again, have nice hair, nice makeup. Like, other than that, you have to have personality on stage. So all bikini competitors, I've noticed, have a personality on stage, and it doesn't have to be a sexy personality. It can be confident, it can be graceful, it can be kind of sexy if you want it to be. Like, it can be what feels good to you. For myself, like, I am kind of a performer from my gymnastics background, so that's easy for me to turn that on. Like, when I'm on stage, I'm a completely different person from if you meet me like at the grocery store. Like, you'd be like, that's not you, but it is.
It's like you're playing a character up there on stage.
Yeah, for sure, because you're not going to be able to stand out, because everybody has a gorgeous suit on, gorgeous hair, gorgeous makeup, great physique. Everybody has that. What makes you different? You know, you have to have personality up on stage. And if you watch like a pro level competition, like, you see all these different amazing physiques, but you see certain posing that you're like, that pops, that's different, that's eye catching.
Right.
And it's entertainment at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do you consider, this is an interesting question. Actually, I heard this on another podcast earlier, so I can't completely take credit for this question, but I think it's an interesting one. Do you look at physique sports as a sport or as a beauty pageant? Like, how do you view it? Because there's a lot of people on different sides of this, right? Like, they're athletes, it's a sport, a competition, but a lot of people say that there's not enough, there's too much subjectivity to it to actually consider a sport. Now, where do you fall on that?
I would look at it like a independent sport. So that would just be, again, like figure skating, gymnastics, diving, because it's subjective by nature. There's a judging panel, because even if you're watching figure skating, you know, you got judges and they're judging you, and maybe someone saw something in their eye that seemed a little bit off, whereas the other person thought they looked good. You know, you're going to have a bias in place. And just because there's a bias doesn't mean that it's not a sport. It's just about your perception. And you could even use that for football. I mean, they flag calls all the time where we don't think that they should be flagged. So there is going to be subjectivity to any sport. Now, I do think people get thrown off because looks are a part of it, but that is the sport, because the sport isn't just the look of the day. The sport is the years of weight training. That's where the practice is. So that the sport requires years and years of practice, years and years of training to perform. So the performing is the posing and is the flexing. So that, to me, it is a sport.
You know, I really like that breakdown, actually. You mentioned something that I hadn't thought of, as far as, you know, throwing the flags in football or calling a foul in basketball. Like, there is a lot of subjectivity to sports that, you know, I wasn't even thinking about. So that's really interesting. Something I you know, that's kind of foreign to me, because I'm a male, is how important and how integral it is, the hair, the makeup, the bikini. Like, in your opinion, just talk about that aspect of competing, because that's something that when I have female competitors come to, I shove them off. Like, I say, here's someone that you might want to ask, because I don't know that. Even as a coach, like, I can't tell you.
Oh,
So
yeah. If that was a
that?
service, I would love to offer that, just to go over hair and makeup. Stage wise, even it goes down as much as hair color. So hair color, blondes, your hair is going to flash back with the lights. It's not as appealing as darker hair. Okay, little details like that. Hair length, you know, don't want too long to cover your back or the top of your glutes. You also might not want it too short if your back isn't developed. Makeup is huge. So you want your face to look healthy. You want it to look glowing. You want it to look like your eyes look alive. And unfortunately, with dieting, sometimes your eyes don't look as lively and your face can look a little bit gaunt. And you don't want that on stage. You want to look healthy. So I would say it's huge. And also, like, little details too, to where, like, your hair falling on your suit, is it covering your suit too much? That can be an issue. It could cover some of your shape. You know, I've seen girls where their delts are super developed. They take their hair, they put it to the side to cover a little bit of their delt. They turn pro because their critique was too much delt. Take the hair, cover it a little bit. You can get away with a couple things. So that happened to one of my good friends. So hair and makeup is super important, and it brings everything together. If you're spray tanning your face, if your makeup, if your eye makeup's matching your suit, it doesn't look good. So I would say, if you don't know how to do makeup, either practice, or this would be the area where I'd say invest $150, get the makeup done, so you don't have to worry about it, because it'll take a lot of stress off of you, and plus you're just going to feel really confident.
I just have to say, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, and
yeah, I'm thankful. I respect the hell out of you guys for that, because there's so much more for females that go into competing than just the training and the posing that men don't have to really worry about. Of course, like, if you're doing men's physique, you need to pick the right board shorts. You need to, you know, do stuff like that. But it's not nearly to the extent that you guys have to do.
Some men are starting to get just like a foundation done to, like, make their skin tone evened out. Yeah. Sometimes men will shave, so, like, that's a little bit like cosmetic. One other thing I wanted to touch upon is just with women thinking they need a breast augmentation. You don't need one to be a successful bikini competitor. I didn't have one until 2018 after my season. I placed better in 2018 than 2019. And if you think it's an augmentation, it's not.
Do you mind me asking what led you to go down that road?
Yeah. I think that through years of competing, I was a little insecure with where my body loses body fat. I lose a lot of body fat within my midsection, back, and my chest. Okay. So it got to a point where I had a lot of vascularity through my chest. I had squared off pecs. It just didn't make me feel good. A lot of my clothes and sports bras didn't fit correctly. And even throughout gymnastics, it was always something that I was a little insecure with. So I decided to get a breast augmentation because I wanted it for me. And even if I'm not competing, it makes me feel confident. And not to say that you need it as a female. If you don't have boobs, then that's fine. You don't need them to feel confident. But I know for me, it's something that's made me feel a little bit better with my shape. I felt like my legs were super developed. It just kind of balanced me out a little bit. But if you whatever size you are, just be happy with where you're at and don't feel like you have to go under the knife. And I know that a lot of women too are getting their implants out because of breast implant illness. And I will say, I've never experienced that, but just be informed before you decide to do any sort of surgery like that.
Now, is yours over the muscle or under?
Under. So I will say mine has affected my training. And I know a lot of women say that it doesn't bother them, but for me, I went to a surgeon who is world renowned. He's not just board certified, he's double board certified. So he's one of the best of the best. And he was even telling me, you don't really need to train your chest right now. Even after, there's no need to, because the implant's underneath the muscle. And that can cause your implant to slide over into your armpit because of the contraction going on. So when you're contracting, your muscles are kind of pumping up and it will shift your implants a little bit over. Yeah. For me, it's uncomfortable. So when I'm doing a push-up, that's why I'm telling all these people, don't tag me in a push-up challenge, because I can feel my implants shift during the separation with the muscle and coming back together. And when you get a pump in your chest and you have implants, it feels like a lot of pressure and it's really uncomfortable. So it has affected my training. If you go over the muscle, your implant might be silicone or saline. So saline's water. Silicone is more of a gummier texture. That can allow for you to train your chest. But when you get lean, you have to be worried about your skin compressing against your implant, which can cause rippling. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's when you can see the outline of the implant, which isn't a good look that a lot of women are going for. So again, consult with your surgeon. If you can't tell, I've done a lot of research with implants before I got them.
I think that's really important to hear, is that this was not a spur of the moment thing. You did your research, you understood the ramifications, I guess, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. And you did this for you. You didn't do this because someone told mm-hmm. you needed to do it. I think
a judge has never told me to get an augmentation ever.
I think that's really important for the females here to hear. And even, honestly, even the males that are listening to this that might be coaches, don't ever force something on your client that you think they need. In terms of breast augmentations, obviously, things like that. Really, this needs to be a personal decision. And it sounds like you did a lot of research on it. Now, because I haven't done as much research on it for various reasons, but which one seems to be the one that's causing more issues for the women, the over or under? Or is it the saline?
So it's not necessarily the implant type. So there's different types of texture with your implants. So you can do smooth or textured. Textured is supposed to help stay in place. So if you were to get a lift, the textured implant would stay up to have more of a higher profile on your chest, which is usually a look that women want. Textured implants, some have been recalled. So if you have textured implants, I would say you could call up your surgeon, not to say that there's anything wrong with them, but call your surgeon and ask them about any sort of things that are going on with the FDA there. Now, it's not silicone versus saline with the breast implant illness. So what's going on it's not necessarily in medical literature either, but it's like a theory more
Yeah.
so. And they believe that because you're putting in a foreign object, that your body is continuously fighting against it to
Oh,
protect you. So if you were to get like a knee replacement, or to get in, um, even females, like an IUD, like that is a foreign substance in your body. And what's going on is some women's bodies are fighting against it, which is causing a lot of health issues.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I know plenty of women competitors that do have them. I know one that recently got went like a step up, got another size, and I've known people that have taken them out, and I just think it's I've always been curious about what it is that's actually causing
Mm-hmm.
this illness, because it seems to be a little bit more prevalent the last year or two.
Here's the other thing, though. I feel like you have to take into account the whole picture. So it's easy to blame just the implants, but you really, like, if you feel like you have breast implant illness, please look at all areas of your life. Please look at if you're struggling with anxiety and diagnose it. Are you treating it properly? Even like digestion issues, and focusing on over exercising, or there's so many things that you can look into that I feel like competitors are kind of tied in with, that
Yeah.
they aren't looking at, because the last thing you want to do is spend 10 grand to go under and get your implants out, and then you realize, oh, it wasn't my implants.
Right. Yeah, that's a very expensive mistake to be making.
Yeah.
And there's so many different areas that affect our health. You said it really well. Stress is a huge thing that I don't think people take um, enough interest in, I guess, or prevention in. We all have stress.
And even just like placebo effect.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Even people right now have the cold and they're freaking out, when they, in reality, you just need to take a deep breath and relax a little bit.
right, right. So, how are you managing this COVID-19 crisis with your clients?
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, this week I think for any online coach has been just a very busy week with trying to help clients maneuver
Mm-hmm.
around what equipment they have available to them. I know you've been putting out a lot of stuff on your Instagram as far as home workouts. Pretty much every day that I'm doing home workouts at home, I'm putting them up on my stories, things like that, and trying to create it. So, but as far as I guess reassuring your clients, I'm sure a lot of them are probably kind of freaking out a little bit, right? Because we just don't know how long this is going to last, how long we're going to be out of gyms for. I have 4 female clients that are supposed to be competing between May and June, and I don't know what to tell them. Like we're staying the course with prep. I said, worst case scenario, you guys got a lot of good photo shoots out of this.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that you are finding as reoccurring questions with your clients, either about training or nutrition during this time?
Training is, these at-home workouts aren't as hard as the gym. So that's been the biggest one. And that is when you need to play around with other variables like supersets, frequency, time under tension, pause sets, and focusing on range of motion. You don't need that much equipment either. I just bought what's called a body boss, which is super cool. If you have a door hook, some bands, if you have, a set of dumbbells, you're good to go. I am just focusing a lot on time under tension, which means, the time to complete your rep is longer. Focus on form, like perfect form. Don't just go through the motions where you're like flying through your movements. Like take your time as you squat down and then come right back up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, because they're at home, they're just kind of rushing through the workout instead of really focusing on what they're doing.
Right.
And it's harder to focus at home, but you got to create a workspace. You got to figure out, I'm just going to train in my living room, or I'm just going to train in my garage. I am going to listen to music. I'm going to make sure the kids are taking a nap so they're not distracting me. Like, you have to be creating a ritual right now at home like you would at the gym. If you normally have a pre-workout, have a pre-workout at home. If you normally have a 15-minute drive to the gym, go for a 15-minute walk and then come back and start your workout. So creating a ritual and making your workout fit your level of fitness is super important with training.
Yeah, I love that, the creating the ritual. I think that's important at any time. I think now it's probably even more so important because we don't have those variables that you said. We don't have intensity in the gym like we usually do. The one big thing I've been telling people is intensity is going to be coming down, but that means frequency and volume can go up a little bit more. So also a really good thing during this time, if you guys are listening to this and, you know, this unfortunate crisis is still happening, really, really break down your form. Okay. There's a lot of weaknesses that people have in squats, bench press, sort of movement. Use this time to break it down. Break it down to the simplest form with just your body weight. I've noticed that, you know, I actually have a bit of a hip shift when I squat down. So I'm using this time to really focus on going down slow, doing higher rep stuff, really drilling in that motion to try to fix that hip shift. So when I go back to squatting, the hack squat, like any of that stuff, it's fixed. So use this time as an opportunity to work on conditioning, mobility, these little imbalances that you have in your body. I've been doing a lot of single leg.
Unilateral work is going to be huge. Isometric going to be huge.
Absolutely. I still have a shoulder and back injury that I'm healing up from. So this is kind of almost like a blessing in disguise. And that's one thing I've been trying to reiterate to people is that this is not forever. Okay. This is a small, uncomfortable time in our lives. I've been through way more uncomfortable times without a gym. This is not
the worst. The worst thing would be to just stop training. Like, oh, I don't have a gym. That would be like throwing like a little fit. Like, oh, you can't train, so you're not going to train at all. That makes no sense. So do something about it, because that's going to be better than nothing. And then continue to track your macros. Continue to care about your nutrition. Yes, you might have to swap out some of your favorite foods for something different. Like maybe you have to try shrimp instead of chicken, and you know, or maybe you get like a Costco membership. I'm not gonna lie, I just went to Costco. They have everything. So you live in America, you have so much abundance right now, like it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, the other thing to remember is this is not an economic crisis that we're going through. You know, 2008 was an economic crisis. That's actually what kind of drove me into the military, to be honest. That was an economic crisis. This is not an economic crisis. It seems like it because people are not wanting to spend money right now. But this will recover very quickly when this health crisis is averted, right? When we get that better. So there's no need to go out and hoard stuff. Food production is not going to shut down. You know, I think a lot of people are running into issues with not finding stuff that they're able to usually have, because a lot of people are hoarding stuff thinking that, you know, they're not going to be able to get it. And that's just not the case. But Nicole said it best, like, this is a really good time to work on flexibility. Work on not only flexibility with your training, but with your diet. At the end of the day, is it going to be as perfect and optimal as it was when you're 100% on point? No. But that doesn't mean that you stop. That doesn't mean that you don't keep going. Working out, doing something physical is better than nothing. So I think you said it best there. How have you been holding up?
I'm all right. I will say that I am more so concerned about some of my close friends, like losing jobs. So like that's more so hard for me, because that would stress me out. So for me, it's more so being worried for those people too. I am, again, very grateful that I do have a job, and a lot of my clients still have their jobs, but if a client loses a job, like that hurts me. Like I feel for them. So it's more so working with their circumstances right now. Providing a lot of extra content in my Facebook community, like the free workouts, doing like coaching calls with them, making sure that they stay connected. I am an introvert by nature, so I'm used to being stuck at home. I don't really go anywhere. So for my personal life, it hasn't really shifted, but taking like the spotlight off myself, it's changing for a lot of people, and it's affecting them. So if you are having a really hard time right now too, I always say that when you're alone, this is a good time to get to know yourself. And if you're uncomfortable with yourself right now, then you have to address it and maybe, you know, change something.
Absolutely. I know I've got a few clients that are really struggling during this time too. Their jobs are not lost, but hours are very, very cut back. And, you know, money is an issue right now, and it will pick back up once everything's done. But you do develop relationships. Hopefully you develop relationships with your clients. I mean, if you're a good coach and you're truly caring, that's important. I know I've told a few people that, we're up next month for renewal and everything, that, hey, listen, like, I'm not gonna drop you because you can't pay. Like, we're gonna keep working through it. And when things get better, we'll take care of a new package at that point. But, you as a coach get, hopefully, involved with your clients, and you gain a really good relationship with them. And I think this is just a really good time to try to help each other out as much as we possibly can, because everybody in one way or another is being affected. And
Yeah.
like you, my wife and I don't go out very much. Our date nights are usually go get, take out Chinese and watch Netflix at home, and the biggest change for me is just not having the gym open. But, you and I, we work from home. This is a very, natural setting for us, but I do feel for a lot of people whose lives are being just 180 degrees turned around right now. And I'm sure I can speak for Nicole. If you guys have questions, you guys have anything, please reach out to us. I'm going to leave all her information in the description box below. You're obviously watching my YouTube channel, so you probably know mine, but I will leave that below too. I could keep you on here for probably 2 more hours, but I won't. I'll respect your time. I'm going to have you definitely on again, because there's so many more aspects that I want to get into with you. But I want you to just kind of take these next few moments, plug whatever you want to plug, tell people where they can find you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so, well, anyone that's listening to this podcast, if you guys want to join a Facebook community, you're welcome to join mine. You just have to search Nicole Ferrier's Fit Fam. Bunch of free content in there, and just some community support for maybe your family doesn't understand your fitness goals, so you can, have a community there. My podcast, Beyond the Bikini Radio. My Instagram is Nicole Ferrier, Nicole Ferrier Fitness, I should say. And then I also have TikTok. So if you guys aren't on TikTok and you need a laugh, I would recommend checking out that app. It's just Nicole Ferrier and Hope, and Hope's my dog.
That is something I haven't been able to get into yet, is TikTok. Like, I just don't get it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be something that's going to grow onto me here pretty soon. But thank you so much for taking the time, guys. Like I said at the beginning of this, we did do a podcast on her podcast a couple weeks ago, so go check that out. I think it was a great talk. But I can't thank you enough for sharing some of your wisdom, your insight. And like I said, I'd love to have you back on and discuss other aspects of physique, coaching, everything in the future. So I appreciate it.
Definitely.
Stay safe, stay healthy, keep putting out the good content, right?
Yes, of course. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care.